Breaking Good, the officially unofficial podcast for Breaking Bad on AMC. I'm Jim.
I'm A.Ron.
I kind of question it because this dropped on Netflix, what we're about to talk about, El Camino.
It's Breaking Bad still an AMC production, but El Camino definitely a Netflix.
And it's actually made by Sony Studios, so I don't know what AMC is doing here. Which one of their fingers is in this pie, but I don't know that I like it.
The stinky one.
It's weird to say that intro. I haven't said that intro in probably 5 years at least.
When I opened my Breaking Bad notes, the last edit was February 2015. We had just wrapped up season 2 of our catch-up coverage. It was all about the breakfast counts.
Yep.
Trying to decide whether Walt Jr. had an unfair, unearned reputation of breakfast destroyer or not. And it is weird. It is weird. Like, Breaking Bad absolutely was a foundational role of us becoming full-time podcasters. It's nuts to think about. It's been off the air a long time, 7 years.
It's got to be,
yeah, because it's and now it's back. When I first heard about this project, what did you think when you first heard this project?
I thought, man, I don't know that we need that. Like, I thought back to like Serenity. As it relates to Firefly, and I'm like, well, okay, Firefly, I understand the desire to want to do that movie because it was cut short and they didn't get to tell you into that story.
Cut down its prime.
Yeah, but Breaking Bad got a full run. Breaking Bad went out on top. What do we need this for?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my initial thought. What about yours?
I thought the same. I thought that, I kind of want to see Vince do something. I want to see him spread his wings and fly. Like, going back to the Breaking Bad, it'd be like if... I felt the same thing, and I don't know, this might be heretical to Breaking Bad fans, but in the year or two after Breaking Bad, when Aaron Paul and Bryan Cranston kept on doing, like, Emmy stunts and Oscar stunts and commercials for things as Jesse, and it's like, this is getting kind of cringy. Like, I kind of felt the same way about Vince returning to the world that he had, mastered and conquered. But as it came, started getting closer, and I started thinking about, being able to revisit Jesse, and I haven't really seen Aaron Paul in anything really good for a while. I started being like, okay, I'm in the mood to see a Breaking Bad movie. But I had zero expectations for it. I thought, Breaking Bad was so much about Walt. Yes, Jesse was like kind of like the 1A or the 2A performer. But so much of the tension of Breaking Bad was, how does Walt think himself out of situations? And Jesse just doesn't have that same reputation for thinking himself out of reputation or situations. Certainly not with electromagnets or robots or that wasn't a real word. Magnets. So I wondered how it would still feel like Breaking Bad. So I guess let's stop pussyfooting around. What did you think of El Camino?
Surprisingly, I thought it was sort of a vital piece of the Breaking Bad story that I didn't really know that I was missing. Like, I guess the only thing I came away from Breaking Bad wondering is, and it was the big question on everybody's mind at the end of that, what's Jesse gonna do, right? Where's Jesse gonna go? And the interesting thing about this movie is it doesn't flash forward, but it tells you everything you need to know about Jesse's future by flashing backward.
Yeah,
it's really weird in that way.
And one of the few complaints that I had, I think a lot of people had, the final Breaking Bad season, is that Jesse just wasn't there.
Yeah,
he was spent his whole time in a cage. Right. So like having 2 hours of like, what did he actually go through? How is his relationship with Walter White like fundamentally changed? How what is his kind of like moral barometer and compass? I thought it was interesting because there's a lot of times in this movie that I didn't know how Jesse was going to act. Yeah, like Jesse could be excused for being a full-on murderous psychopath. He could be excused for just like curling up in a corner and crying for all 2 hours, and that not knowing, and also knowing that he's not going to be able to like whip together some kind of bomb or fulminated mercury. There's a lot. It gave it a lot more of like a Western feel. Sometimes just quite literally a Western feel, which I know that's something that's always appealed to Vince. Like he always liked that aspect of setting things out in the American West and the deserts, and there's a lot of things that like Walt wearing a black hat. And having like various showdowns, usually mentally, verbally, kind of like negotiating, talking his way out of it. But I liked it. I went on Twitter and so when right before lunch Friday, I took a look around at the reviews and I was seeing a lot of mixed reviews. And I went on the Breaking Bad subreddit and just kind of like the no spoiler one and like kind of skimmed through kind of people's reaction. And the one reaction I kept on seeing in the negative reviews is that it's unnecessary. And what I said on Twitter is, yes, it's unnecessary the way a cherry on top of a sundae is. But if you're eating a sundae, don't you fucking want that cherry?
Right.
The only way this could be bad is if it took something away from Breaking Bad's mythology. I think it did nothing but add.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a couple of quibbles. There's a couple of things that I'm not sure I liked. But honestly, I really liked it the first time through when I sat down and gave it a close watch and looked at how much stuff they packed in. Because it's up in air. I wasn't sure what kind of cameos we'd get. Were we going to see any of the Whites? Were we going to see Jesse's parents? Were we going to see Saul? Because there's rumors that Odenkirk was on set. I think he tweeted out like something like, "Oh, it's done film." So I don't. Maybe there's a cut scene that's going to come out on the 3-hour DVD that he pops up in. But yeah, I really liked it. And also the filmmaking on display here is just shut your mouth. Get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a return to Breaking Bad form. Every cool camera angle that you remember from Breaking Bad, every inventive place to attach a camera that you wouldn't think, all that stuff. The one that really stood out to me for some reason is when they're tossing the body off the second story. And the camera is like shooting up toward Jesse, and he kind of just peeks over the railing.
Right.
I thought that was just a really cool shot.
Yeah, I really like the. There's a lot. Yeah, like there was a scene, I think, of the waiter pouring water from the like water's perspective. There's the scene that stuck out in my mind was when Jesse was tossing Todd's apartment, and they do that like looking like Jesse's in the tarantula tank, like they built the whole set where it's got no roof, and he learned, they've learned so much about low light shooting and Better Call Saul, and all that stuff was on display.
Yeah,
like Todd's apartment lit only with the flashlight was like a laser light show, just because it was such a garishly lit and like all that reflectivity coming off, and those new modern cameras that can just drink in any kind of photon they get.
Yeah,
the stuff that Breaking Bad's never a slouch in the camera department, obviously in the filmmaking department, but I feel like he's got another almost decade of like expertise and new technical tricks and stuff that he was able to pull off, and it's great. Aaron Paul has not forgot how to act.
No, he hasn't. And act like Jesse, too.
Yeah.
In all the stages of Jesse, which was really cool to see. We
thought
kind of get, flashbacks that take us to old Jesse. I think we figured out just after 4 days out, where, he's still pointing out cow houses, shit like that. And then you got, new Jesse who has been tortured and now has to put his life back together.
So, I don't know. Do you want to talk about any more kind of general things? The only kind of general thing I wanted to talk about is how do you think the fact that this has been 10 years on and a lot of people have gotten older and they brought those same people back.
I thought it worked.
Yeah, the fact that like they didn't really try to anti-age anyone kind of made it like, well, unless you just watched Breaking Bad, which I know a lot of people did. A lot of people watched those must-see episodes and stuff. So it'd be like super jarring, but since they did they reuse a single shot from the series?
Not that I remember, no.
So, like, everything kind of was consistent. Jonathan Banks is really old.
Yeah.
Everything else, I think, like, worked. Like, especially Jesse with the long hair wig that he had, with the facial scarring, it kind of... I feel like him aging 7-8 years kind of helped with his battered, scarred visage. So I thought I was expecting to kind of like have to overlook that, but really, especially when the first scene is Mike, I was thinking like, oh boy, it's going to be rough. But no, everything and Bryan Cranston not shaving his head. He was wearing a very obvious bald cap.
Yeah, I mean, Jesse Plemons. Look, we called him Meth Damon in Breaking Bad. We called him Fat Damon in Fargo.
Yeah,
he's leaning a little more toward Fat Damon nowadays.
Yeah, he's got. I think that's his
probably
natural
the most,
form.
Yeah, that's got to be the most jarring because he's in season 5, and he's pretty thin. Yeah, he's like just a kid.
Yeah.
And then he comes into this as a full-grown man.
But Jesse Plemons is also a powerful actor, and like I just love how he riffs on this like childlike psychopath guy.
At one point in this movie, I started thinking, this is more about Jesse Plemons, about Todd being a psycho, than it is Jesse at all. Like we spend a lot of time with Todd,
but also like that serves to juice up several scenes, which we'll get to. Let's go ahead and get into the episode. I guess the movie rather, El Camino. So it opens up with a flashback to Jesse and Mike. This is right before Mike dies, right? This is the actual clearing that Walt shows up and shoots him.
And you can see the cars are parked in the same spots. Walt's about to pull up.
Yep.
And fuck up his whole day.
Thank God New Mexico is a desert and the landscape rarely changes at this part because, it's immediately recognizable. I think it might have been. It wasn't as wasn't a little bit more lush and green. I feel like they maybe shot this at a different time of year.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
from my memory, certainly.
Yeah, and it just kind of sets up the whole premise of where would you go, Mike, if you were me, and. You go to Alaska to start fresh because it's the final frontier. But then Jesse's like, yeah, it sounds good. I can put things right. And Mike says that's the one thing you can never do. And those two themes are going to carry us throughout the movie. I was in the tank for this film on the next scene when we went to Skinny P and Badger. Like, the bromance between these three and how generous they were with Jesse and like what Skinny P says about you're my hero, I thought it was amazing. What'd you think?
Yeah, when I first got to this scene, I saw Jesse walk up to the door. And I thought, oh fuck, Jesse's gonna get back in with the wrong crowd. Jesse's life is gonna turn to shit again, as if it needed to get any worse. And by the end of this scene, I was like, okay, yeah, no, these are drug dealers. But they're also good guys when it comes to their friends. Like, so I was worried for him. But by the end of that, I was happy.
I thought it was neat that like once we had the kind of like sedate flashback to Mike, we immediately got into the action. Like Jesse had just escaped the compound and immediately the cops are there because of course they would be. All that machine gun fire. Yeah,
like smash cuts from like a fairly sedate Jesse looking out of the water, I think, to him screaming as he's driving away in his car from the crime scene.
I loved Badger and Skinny P playing video games.
What's their chairs, man?
Those
chairs.
I think those are supposed to be like Star Trek captain's chairs.
They look a lot like
because
them.
There's an Enterprise in the background, and I think that whole VHS collection is like the old series on because that was in like an all white special edition box set, and I don't know if it's Badger or Skinny P, but one of these guys is a big Star Trek fan. And I guess that's the other thing is, like, these guys seem like they've made out all right. Like, they got a good chunk of change from when Walt and Jesse were running things, and it was good. And also, I guess Walt gave him a good amount of money right before, didn't he? Like,
certainly Skinny Pete, I think it was both of them,
yeah. With the laser rod, they maybe got a little bit of money, but they're
at Elliot's house,
kind of large. Maybe they'll be okay. Maybe they'll be smart with the maybe they'll splurge on the captain's chairs and they'll be smart with their money.
I don't know about that.
But there's a lot of great scenes of him, getting clean, like the scene in the shower where you can just see the dirt running off of him and him flashing back to the Nazis.
Especially when in like the next few scenes where Todd's promising, oh, we're going to keep you cleaner from now on. And then you remember back, oh, no, I saw that drain. You didn't fucking do that.
No, you didn't keep your promise, Todd.
Yeah.
You're also not around to feed your spider, you fucking monster. I really liked the steam coming off of him when he turned off the shower, kind of like, man on fire kind of situation.
Also very Breaking Bad opening kind of theme, that montage thing.
Yeah. The other thing about this whole Nazi situation is I remember how derisive we were about neo-Nazis when we were first covering the show. Like,
2012.
Yeah, right? Like, if this would take place, like, this would be a lot more fucking plausible and menacing if, that's the thing that really blew me away. It's like, man, we had so many fucking neo-Nazis. What kind of lame-ass joke is this? So there's also, like, so we get Joe, the junkyard guy. Is that a Monster Joe reference to Pulp Fiction?
Maybe. That I had never thought of that.
I mean, like, or maybe it's just Vince's opinion that every junkyard owner's name is Joe, and they are all involved in some kind of shady business.
Oh, that
I
part
absolutely believe that.
Yes,
I believe every junkyard. Like, I'm not saying they're primarily shady, but if they have the right shady opportunity to come up to them, they're probably going to take it.
That's not making a murderer. I love Joe. Joe is maybe the best character in this entire movie. He's his way of just like. So he's also got that, Skinny Pete Badger thing where he's like, okay, well, a ride or die crew, like we're all kind of in this together. Yeah. Until he realizes, oh, you've already been caught. And that then he's out of there.
Yeah, and this is a study of contrast because they go long stretches of like the kind of Better Call Saul, just like watch a guy fuck around for 15 minutes, which I find absorbing. And then, but they use these elements of like the cops are coming because the machine gun fire, the low jack has gone off. Cops have shown up to toss like every single time the thing is in danger of lulling a little too far. Vince is the master of pacing. Like he's ready to shoot you with adrenaline. That's speaking of Pulp Fiction, Skinny P low key methed out Mr. Wolf.
Okay.
Wolf. He's Wolfing this shit here.
That's hard to say.
He's got the plan to swap out. He's got the cash. He's got he's got him cooled out like three little Fonzies, man.
I thought what was gonna happen when we saw Jesse going back for that money at Todd's place, that it was gonna be in the El Camino. And that he would have like sort of doomed himself to not have any money by taking that offer. Like,
right.
Yeah. But no, Skinny Pete is on the ball. He knows exactly what to do.
I also love.
And so there was that scene that wasn't in the movie that they showed as sort of a preview teaser thing with Skinny Pete being interrogated by the cops.
Yeah.
And I envision that taking place when the cops show up and get the El Camino.
Right. He's pushing his, I just smoked a fat bull with him, man. Like, I don't know nothing about nothing.
And even if I did, I wouldn't tell you.
Yeah. I liked how those are like fit into those some of them actually, like the Monster Joe rather. The Joe is right from the movie, but the Skinny Pete stuff. Do you think those were cut?
I don't know, or maybe they were just meant to be teasers.
Yeah, they've got him here, and they're great little like mini-sodes, I think. I also love Vince's continuing fascination with just terrible cars. Like he had the Aztec. You've got the fucking Toyota. What was that? I used to have one, a Tercel wagon. And now Jesse's driving a fucking Pontiac Fiero.
Man, I had a boss one time who was obsessed with those cars. Had like 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah,
just loved to get those old sports cars and fix them up.
One of the best mechanics I've ever known was obsessed with them too, because he's like they're super cheap. If they're easy to tune, and like you can't beat a mid-engine sports car for fun for driving.
They're mid-engine.
Yeah. It's like one of the first all aluminum blocks, and like they're famous for catching on fire. The engine spontaneously catching on fire.
Let's say you can put more. You can stash more meth in the front. Of the car?
Right.
Okay.
It's like it's
just
the
whole
original
hood.
frunk. It's just it was just for transporting meth.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, the Skinny Pete with the master plan, and Cinnamon saying you're a hero, badgering him, emptying out their pockets, looking like they put like 10 grand in his hand.
8,200.
80, yeah. Oh, that's right. They do mention that in the vacuum cleaner scene.
Yeah.
And we get another flashback to A Day Out with Todd, which is the bulk of the movie. Like this kind of continued flashback where Jesse, I'm sorry, not Jesse, Todd. I keep getting Todd and Jesse confused because it's Jesse Plemons.
Which is extra confusing given there's a Jesse in all these scenes.
Yes. So it's this flashback to Todd where Todd's uncle is taken off to, I don't know, wherever you go, take a new boat in New Mexico. He's going to be gone for the weekend with his buddies. So it's just just Todd and Jesse alone. I'm somewhat skeptical that the uncle would in fact leave Jesse and Todd all alone, seeing how dumb Todd is and how horribly wrong it almost went. Yeah. But he's a neo-Nazi. If he had something besides shit for brains, he wouldn't be that. So there you go.
He's got that failsafe too of Brock. Like, it can't go too wrong.
Yeah.
Unless Jesse just decides he doesn't give a shit about Brock.
Right. If he just, I mean, like, if he just skates to the cops, they're fucked because he's like yeah. That's the play. If like I thought, well, let's wait until we get to that scene because I want to hash this out about whether this is a spell that Billigan's putting on us or if it actually works. Todd, like, there's so many great details, like Todd lowering the cigarette to Jesse down, like he's like fishing.
This binder clip thing, yeah.
He's like breaking a wild horse. You know, it's like this hasn't been rid for a while, so I need to get the bridle on him nice and slow, and lots of sugar cubes, and how he's also got this weird passive aggressive like Lumbergh from The Office, like, I'm gonna need you to go ahead and get out of this pit, and
yeah, he's a psycho, man.
Yeah.
He doesn't react to stimuli the way that normal people do.
Yeah, like if you try to escape, I'm gonna have to go visit the little boy. And this way he's grooming Jesse, like he's a little, like he's using a spit, like he's a dad trying to tame a 3-year-old's hair before he takes him.
Yeah,
it's a lot of weird, off-putting stuff.
Which
Todd.
Is good. That's what you wanted in those scenes, I think.
Yeah.
Like, it definitely gave me an impression of who Todd is.
Yeah, and especially since throughout a lot of this, you don't know what the hell Todd wants.
Yeah.
And, like, they swing by his apartment, and he wants help putting the camper top on his El Camino. And I'm like, I could buy that Todd would do this just to do that. Like, but, you know, where is the other shoe going to drop? Where is this going to be? And Jesse not knowing either. Like, he's, you know, playing this like a guy who knows he's dealing with a completely loose nut type of person, which leads us to, there's a great little scene of Jesse breaking into Todd's apartment in the present day, and they've built up tension throughout this scene of Todd because he's just such a crazy person. You know what the stakes are of Jesse getting away, but you don't know if he's going to be able to do it. And we bring it back to the present, and we see that he's listening to the radio, and we hear, you know, a little Easter egg for Breaking Bad fans that Lydia, you know, Walt poisoned the shit out of her with the ricin, and she's not expected to survive. She's in a hospital dying. Ending a lot of fan theories. Walt found dead at the scene because some people speculated that maybe he could get up.
Weird.
And he's breaking into Todd's apartment. I thought there was a really great and pretty effective tense scene of him escaping the nosy neighbor. You know, he's got the keys out, and he drops the keys, and he's again, Vince is the master of building this tension. It's such great staging and blocking. Like, you know, that's a pretty long take, and there's a lot of complex things going on. Guy watering flowers, Jesse dropping keys, which takes us back to the flashback. And there's a great scene of, you know, Jesse looking out of the peephole, and it dissolves to him doing it again because, you know, Todd's trying to keep him from being seen by that neighbor. And we get to Todd's apartment. What's your review of Todd's apartment?
It looks bad.
Yeah?
I thought it was kinda especially once you get behind the counter and you see what he's using for, like, cabinet doors. I don't know. It's like wiffle doors. I mean, okay. His apartment is borderline cool. I think the colors are wrong, and I think there's like one too many materials in there.
I think it's kind of neat as like a retro Art Deco pastel workshop garage vibe. Like,
yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd want to live in it though.
But it turns out as he leads Jesse into the kitchen without any fanfare. And when Jesse screamed and yelped, I thought there was something wrong with like the picnic table that he's using for the kitchen table, because you don't see what's in the foreground, this dead body.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he just yelps and screams. And I'm like, what am I supposed to be looking at? And then I notice he's looking at the foreground, and turns out that the reason that he brought Jesse here is to help him get rid of his housekeeper's body, and
who just sort of discovered his money. Brought it to him to alert him.
And he feels real bad about it because she's a real nice lady, didn't do anything ever wrong to him.
Psycho.
But what are you going to do, man? She found his money. He's stashing it in. I also thought it was funny that Todd's using the World Book Encyclopedia because, like, why not, you know?
I mean, he lays out a pretty good case, you know? Like, it's got a lot of volumes.
Yeah,
fit a lot of money in those
people
books.
aren't reading much anymore. It's all about stuff online. So why not? You got Wikipedia now. There's a great, just so much because Jesse, the Lundberg, I think analogy is apt because it's the same kind of deal where you got this obviously terrible psychotic person that you can't be rude to because he's your boss or he's your slave owner. So he's engaging Jesse in all the small talk. They roll up this lady in a in a rug to get it halfway, and then Todd realizes, oh shit, my belt. I gotta get my belt.
Puts it right back on.
Puts it right back on.
From the neck of a dead lady to the waist of a psychopath.
The one thing I guess is saving grace is I don't think she's been dead long because if she had Jesse would have smelled been like, what the fuck is
Yeah, they would have made a bigger deal about that.
Yeah, but he's still Todd. He's still Todd. We found out that there's, and I also thought there's a lot of similarities between the way Jesse was talking to Todd with a lot of ways like Jesse and Walter White. Walt would make inane small talk and conversation with Jesse, and that Jesse really couldn't relate to. You see a little bit of that later on in the episode. We found out that Todd still got the tarantula that he got from the kid he murdered and dissolved in acid. So that's interesting. Did you also notice? So we go to Todd's apartment present day, where we see that his apartment's been tossed by the cops pretty thoroughly. But Jesse breaks out his lighter and gets to work. He eventually finds a flashlight, and I just loved all these shots of the point of view rotating 90 degrees, 180 degrees, the overhead set of him going through this like a terrarium. Like I said, all the lights and the colors, the way they interplayed.
This is Jesse's cooking montage, right?
Yeah.
For this episode.
Yeah, this is the Better Call Saul era, kind of just watch somebody do something absorbing and try to figure out what he's doing for 10 minutes. I didn't get this when I watched it, that Todd's got this snow globe collection, and one that I can't remember if Jesse or the quote-unquote cop picks up, but there's one of him, I guess it's supposed to be him and Lydia in a snow globe that harkens back to his crush that he has on Lydia.
Yeah.
That he's had a custom snow globe of them made.
The more I think about this character, the less good I feel about life.
Yeah, no, he's another 5 years and he's putting people's heads in refrigerators.
Yeah, he's Buffalo Bill. It's fucked up.
It's very fucked up. There's a great kind of seamless transition where Jesse sees his parents on television, in the next unit over, and then he turns on a TV there and listens to their plea to come forward, turn yourself in, because of course they would do that. We flash back to his day with Todd, and we got this bizarre scene of Jesse dumping Sonia, the cleaning lady, over the balcony, which actually reminded, didn't we get rid of a couch in your apartment in Indianapolis a similar way? Didn't we heave that off a third-story balcony?
That sounds right, but I can't recall.
I thought so. It's I've been in this position. It wasn't with a dead body. Oh, it's that fucking couch. So they load it into the El Camino, and you got Todd kind of bopping down the road to some 70s slow jam. He's pulling the horn for the trucker, because he's a little fucking kid. And then they cut to the back, and Jesse's in the back of the El Camino trying to keep from sloshing into this dead woman. He has Jesse dig a grave, and then Todd asks him to fetch the smokes, and he sees him there in the glove box, but there's the gun too. Todd is able to talk him down with the promise of pizza and beer, and there's this just terrible scene of Jesse sobbing and Todd putting his arm around him and telling him to look at the view and how life is what you make it. Why wouldn't the play here be to shoot Todd in the face, get into El Camino, drive to the DEA, tell them everything? They go out to that Nazi compound, and they're going to find a bunch of bad shit. They're going to find that this guy's been enslaved to the meth trade. I feel like he could have gotten Brock protected. Is this just Jesse's been conditioned like an animal that he can't do that? Because it seems like that's the play.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably some of that.
It's another day or two before the Nazis would even know something's wrong.
Yeah, for sure. The trouble is Jesse is a meth kingpin. As much as Walt was, so is Jesse. I think Jesse knows that his options are limited here. If he does go to the cops, he's going to prison, probably for the rest of his life. if not for maybe just for a long time.
But he's in Nazi prison. What's the life expectancy in Nazi prison?
It's not good.
Yeah, I think there's like museums in Germany that attest to that account. Like, it's not good to be in Nazi prison.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think I'd roll the dice to the DEA. Because that's what I was thinking. Is like, surely he's not more afraid of the cops than the neo-Nazis. But I think that he's just a broken man. The idea that he would shoot Todd and get away with it and it wouldn't somehow just blow up in his face. Because, like, look.
And is this all an elaborate ruse? Like,
right.
What's going through Jesse's head? Is it like, okay, well, I know that the neo-Nazis are gone and then I can go to the cops? Or is he thinking, maybe this is a fake out? Maybe this is somehow designed to test me.
And then they're all going to laugh. The gun will be empty.
Right.
And he goes.
And then they'll pull Brock out from behind this rock here. And
and they'll blow his brains out. Yeah. I guess there's that, too, because he just never can.
But that's part of the conditioning, right? Like,
right. Yeah. Like, it's so capricious. And the last time he cooperated with law enforcement is how he ended up in Nazi prison in the first place. So, like, if you could trust them to not be a bunch of chuckle fucks, too, maybe it would work, but because obviously the Southwest DEA is in complete fucking anarchy mode after all the shit that's gone down with.
Well, they don't have Hank.
Yeah, don't have Hank.
What are they
doing? Don't have Hank. They got Gomi.
No.
At number 1, number 2, gone. So yeah, they didn't have back in Jesse's apartment. I'm sorry, back in Todd's apartment in the present day, we have a confrontation with quote unquote cops.
Yeah.
I did not. The way they shot this and filmed this is so brilliant because I did not know they were not cops until they started tying him up with. I found that the same time Jesse did. And when you go back,
just about the same time, yeah.
And you go back and watch it the second time, it plays just as beautifully, knowing that they're people like these guys have. I will say they have ice water pouring through their veins.
Yeah,
but they execute the fake cop routine perfectly.
Yeah, and I was thinking, okay, so clearly at one point the guy in the kitchen gets suspicious, right? And he pulls his gun and he's going through the halls like he's ready to shoot somebody. And I thought, why is that? Is it because he called him lieutenant?
That's
and
what I
didn't
thought
call
too.
him by his like partner's name?
It's like they had something worked out. Like if it's like they're just Mike and Joe or whatever.
He just never calls him lieutenant because they're partners. Like,
right, exactly.
He calls me Bill.
Like that formality.
He calls me
is
Candy.
Yeah, that formality is like a panic button.
Yeah. And then when they reveal what it actually is, it's like, oh, that's even better.
Yes. So. And it's all the fact that then the more you find out, the more it makes sense. The fact that this guy was somewhat related to the neo-Nazi operation, and he'd probably know that Todd, of all of them, would be dumb enough to have all of his money in his house. And
that's only the first time they tricked me in that scene. The second time they tricked me is I thought that I was supposed to remember who this guy is when he says, "You don't remember me." But I'm going to say he wasn't in Breaking Bad.
No. In fact, that's my thing. I'm like, wait, I've seen a lot of Breaking Bad. I've podcasted all of Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
And I went
and
I looked at IMDb and I couldn't find this dude in Breaking Bad. So
yeah, which is somewhat weak. But on the other hand, the end of Breaking Bad cleared out almost everyone that you could possibly have business with, unfinished business with. So they almost have to invent a character for him to settle the scores with, so that you have any kind of tension at all. Because otherwise, Jesse just gets out of he goes to Todd's apartment, he gets the money, he gets out of Albuquerque, he's in Alaska, and we're done in a tight 59-minute runtime. Could practically be an episode.
I don't know. I like what we got here, but I wouldn't say it was the tightest thing in the world.
That's true.
I think there was a lot of slack in the Meth Damon scenes that you maybe could have trimmed.
Yeah.
But
there's definitely
it worked better than it didn't.
A lot of Better Call Saul DNA. A lot of that ponderous. It's again, it's absorbing, but it's also so different from the Breaking Bad DNA.
Right, Breaking Bad was just go.
Yeah,
go.
Like every once in a while, like 1 or 2 seasons an episode, you'd have a chance to catch your breath. But otherwise, it was relentless. Whereas this is like every 15 or 20 minutes, you'd have a 5-minute scene that kind of got you those old Breaking Bad feelings, but is a lot more of like the modern style Better Call Saul, where it's just watching Mike set up an elaborate stakeout or watching Jesse toss an apartment for 15 minutes. And very cool and interesting, and the whole time I was engaged, but I could see some classic Breaking Bad fans being Lord Almighty, let's get this thing goosed up.
I just don't know how you would do that. So like, let's assume this movie is entirely different. Let's assume we pick up with Jesse as he's driving and screaming away from the Nazi compound.
Yeah.
And it's just go, go, go the entire time. The cops are after him. He's trying to get to the vacuum guy. He's trying to get money. And it's just nonstop. I don't feel like we would have come away with a better understanding of Jesse, which is what this gives you, which is what I felt we were missing in Breaking Bad.
That would be the unnecessary version of El Camino.
Yes.
This, where it fills in that gap of knowledge that we didn't really know what was going on with Jesse. It's so funny because I felt like I was Badger in the intro or the opening scenes where he's like, Jesse, was it really true? They kept you in a cage? Because we didn't fucking know hardly anything.
We saw him in the cage a few times.
Saw him in the cage. We saw the time where they murdered Andrea. But he was mostly missing for that final season. So I thought this scene was pretty good as far as the tension of waiting for them. Jesse's in that apartment somewhere. One of these dark corners he's going to be, and the actual reveal where the guy's like, look behind the bed, and you just hear the gun click.
Yeah.
I'm not a cop. I'm no cop killer. But yeah, I thought that.
But I am Batman.
but I am Batman. So we have. Wait, do we have? We'll have to have a break here.
Let me take a drink.
Did we? Oh yeah, let's do that too. Oh, yeah. Let's reset now. Oh, one thing. Did you recognize these two guys?
I recognize the fair complected one.
Okay. Where'd you see him?
But I don't remember where from.
Okay, so the chunkier one has a pretty prominent role in the Righteous Gemstones as lead extortionist.
Lead extortionist.
Yeah.
You're kidding. That can't be the same guy.
Yeah, it's the same fucking guy. He just looks really different.
He looks so much different.
With the haircut and lack of facial hair, he sure as shit does. And
okay.
The redhead played the director of plant security in season 3 of True Detective.
Yes. Yep.
And I'm like, because it was the first time I'm like, I know these guys, but I don't know where. And like somewhere in the second watch, I'm like, fuck, it just clicked into me.
Gotcha.
So I thought
it was annoying me the entire movie because I didn't know.
Yeah. So they get the drop on Jesse, but now that Jesse knows that they're not cops, he now knows that they're just as vulnerable to noise and distraction and the nosy neighbor as anybody. And he uses a distraction with the nosy neighbor to cut a deal with the guy from Righteous Gemstones to divide the money that Jesse's found in the refrigerator 3 different ways.
The guy who we didn't know, but actually sort of felt bad for him because he was the welder, which we'll find out.
Yeah. And works for Candy Welding, and he says, "Wonder when you'd remember me." And there's like a little flashback to clearly it's Nazi jail, but you have no idea what the relationship is yet. We then have the vacuum repair guy scene, which is Jesse hunting for because I don't think he knows where this location is. He just knows the phone number, which he probably does. He just had the card.
He
and the
looked
phrase.
it up in the phone book.
But I got the feeling that maybe he looked up a couple, and the thing that he recognized is the minivan. I got the impression that he'd gone through a bunch of different vacuum cleaner places.
Yeah, he pulled out that whole page and he was going down the list, I assume.
Yeah. So he found the guy, and he goes in, and I thought, first of all, in a massive cosmic coincidence, Robert Forster died the day the El Camino came out of some sort of brain cancer.
Yeah, he was 78.
Shocking. I mean, full life, fairly accomplished guy. Fairly recently had the Oscar nomination for his work on Jackie Brown.
Yeah, fantastic in Jackie Brown.
And he's really good. Like, you can tell that this is one of Mike's guys.
Yeah.
Like, this is the kind of contractor that Mike would source.
Yeah.
Because he's just all business. He's not taking any of Jesse's bullshit. Like, I mean, I can see some people saying it's indulgent, like essentially 5 minutes of him denying that I'm the guy. But it's just funny to see Jesse get progressively worked up, and then he admits, like, okay, I'm like 95% sure that you're the guy. Yes. Yeah, like he can't even.
I knew it.
Yeah, it's so fucking funny. It's a great actor. It's a great character.
And this is a showdown, right, between the two? Like,
this is one of the few moments of humor because he does this elaborate 9/11 call, and then Jesse like runs off, but then Jesse calls his bluff, and I actually thought that it was working, and then the cops pull up. It's like, gotta love that response time.
Also, you forgot your money.
Yeah.
Jesse's got to come running back for it. Yeah,
and he narcs him out, but when the cops come in, he gives a wildly inaccurate description of his vehicle, his build, the facial tattoo, where he was going. So he's still kind of a bro, even as he's like, look, I'm not sure why he was such a prick over the $1,800. This is a Mike thing, though.
It is,
right?
Yeah. It's the rule of it. It's
like the transporter kicking a guy out for being 0.5 kilograms heavier than he said he was going to be. Like, this was the deal. Yeah. Like, fuck you.
It's telling Saul he can't leave the parking lot until he gets his fucking stamps.
Right.
Like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a nice. And I actually thought the whole scene is kind of like a homage to all these kind of like good plans gone wrong kind of moments in Breaking Bad. But then he also offers like, hey, if you can get the $1,800 together, then I'll still get you to Alaska.
I mean, okay, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Because as I was sitting here watching this movie, I kept thinking, why doesn't he just fucking knock off a liquor store? Like, he's already a fugitive. He's like, it's not gonna.
Will a liquor store get you $1,800?
A liquor store.
Everyone just safe drops nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, maybe, there's not a whole lot of money in any place because it's all.
You'd have a better luck robbing a drug dealer, or going back to Skinny P and Badger and be like, hey, I know you guys gave me all your pocket change, but I know you ate $1,800.
Yeah,
like, break that enterprise open. You got 10 grand in there.
God, when he goes over to his parents' house, I thought he was gonna steal his fucking brother's violin and pawn it, and I was like, if you do this, you are dead to me.
It's the chest all over again. I thought he was just gonna rob him of like their silver or something, and which still would have been, that wouldn't have been great. But it's like Jesse tried to be pretty moral in this episode. Like, he didn't want, like, you could tell that he didn't want to add to his body count. He didn't want to do anything that was going to get anybody in any trouble. But this does lead to the showdown at Candy Welding. Yeah. Which first step is going to Jesse's parents. He sends the cops on a wild goose chase by giving a call that he knows they're going to be monitored. Says he wants to be picked up. His parents leave. Conveniently, his brother is he in Europe? Or he's at some kind of competition or university. I don't remember where. I forget, but he's out of the house too. So Jesse breaks in his safe. I thought it was pretty funny that he's trying, like, obviously his birthday, and then you realize it's Jay. I had a moment like that with my dad recently, where like I was helping him with something, and his password on his bank is literally like my initials and my birthday, and I'm like, Father,
you got to change this.
Come on, especially now that I've talked about it on a podcast. Like, it's just a matter of time before they track your ass down and steal every penny from your fucking bumfuck small Indiana bank that probably small town Indiana bank that has absolutely no security on it whatsoever. But so he steals a pistol. I recognize the one as a Ruger 22, which renowned plinking gun, but everybody pisses on, like, a 22 is still kill you. But for whatever reason, people poo-poo the 22 because it doesn't have
a lot of stopping power.
Not a super powerful round. And then he sneaks over to Candy's Welding, and he almost gets the guy clean, but it turns out he's invited a party in the form of a Hummer that disgorges 3 ladies to entertain the fellas. And
the big bouncer dude from Better Call Saul.
So this, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is I forget the name of the guy who does the squat cobbler. When he gets he's auditioning for a security guard, and Stephen Ogg, Mike, and this guy show up. Yep. And Mike just beats the shit out of Stephen Ogg handily and sends Tiny packing on his way. Yep. Now, the one thing I didn't know is, did he have a Hummer then, or
no? So I can't remember his name either. The guy who was buying the pills had the Hummer.
Okay.
Like, he went out and bought.
So ridiculous Hummer, ridiculous shoes. You realize that this has passed hands, and now it's into this guy's.
His was yellow.
I thought so too.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is the same Hummer, but Hummers are a thing apparently among the drug dealers.
Yeah, it's
and criminals of the underworld.
Drug dealer chic apparently. So he's interrupting this little party, and he has to essentially just kind of chill out for several hours. I think it's 3:00 in the morning when they finally take off, and he's able to try to get a drop on these guys. But then we have a flashback to why we should even give a fuck about any of this stuff. And it turns out this guy just welded that little, I don't know what you call it, the little racetrack thing that Jesse was chained to allow him to move around the lab but couldn't get away.
Yeah.
And they show, I forget his uncle's friend, Devil from Justified, but him just being cruel to Jesse and you know, having him try. It looks like he's going to break his fucking hip bones trying to get out of this thing just for his amusement. Pretty small stakes, all in all, to kill a guy over. But I don't think Jesse wanted to kill him. But
nope, he didn't. All he wanted was $1,800, and if the guy would have given it, I think he would have walked away.
Do you think he secretly was wanting to do it? I mean,
he knew he might have to.
He knew he might have to
because he's got that second gun in his pocket.
Yeah, true.
Which was pretty cool because I knew he had 2 guns, but I never really thought, oh, he must have his other gun ready.
I thought that's the one weakness of the scene is like he just obviously had that other gun in his pocket, and the other guys didn't know it. But I thought it kind of stretched credibility that he never takes it out of his pocket. This guy just challenges him to a shootout, and Jesse blows him away with the revolver he has in his pocket. And then they have the world's most terrible gunfight.
Yeah, this was the least believable part of the scene to me. That Jesse didn't take even a single bullet at that range.
It's funny though that like that's pretty realistic if you believe like statistics of like shootouts involving like it's incredibly easy to miss from like 30 feet away when you're shooting a pistol and you're just firing wild and you're jacked with adrenaline and you don't practice it. It's hard to believe, but like that shit with Pulp Fiction, The Miracle, like that's the result of most shootouts at that kind of range. You just don't hit anything. But yeah, it was. I mean, it's nice. It's also that. So it really bugged me. But on the second time through, I'm like, it's interesting that Jesse takes this guy out with a hidden trick weapon the same way the same way Walt did with the machine gun.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, it is a little lame. It was pretty obvious, but it's the same thing as Walt's machine gun, except for that played out for 2 full seasons. This played out over like 15 minutes. So.
Yeah. And then his pocket catching on fire was pretty awesome.
His pocket catching on fire also made it. And I love like all of this Candy's friends. Like there's this guy with like the mirror full of coke that's kind of like trying to hide behind the steel beams.
And even when the shooting goes down, he's still like holding onto this mirror.
Yeah, he doesn't let go of the coke mirror until like he has to step over his buddy's corpse, which I thought that was a great scene too. When he opens the door and that guy just slides down it. Like that guy, pretty good ragdoll. So yeah, that settles things at the OK Candy Corral. We have a flashback to Jesse and Jane, which is nice to see.
It's the one where they're driving in the car.
Yeah.
They're what are they talking about?
I think it's the like going with the flow, right? Because that's what the Jesse.
I know it comes back later. Yeah.
But it's just him thinking about his past before he heads out on his future. Then there's this flashback because I was wondering. I don't know if this was did they say that did we know about this before that like Bryan Cranston was going to make an appearance here?
I certainly didn't.
I wasn't following this project super close.
Neither was I.
But I was like this late. I just figured, well, Walt's dead. There's no possible reason to flash back to it. But they did. And I liked it because it had everything that you want out of a Walt and Jesse scene. There's some humor. There's some stupid Jesse moments. There's some touching Jesse moments, like him saying, like, yo, Mr. White, your family's going to get every penny of their money, which I believe Jesse's post-drug ambitions of being in sports medicine. Great. And then, like Walt forgetting that he graduated from high school. It's like, well, first you got to get your GED. He's like, what? I graduated high school, dick.
Just assuming that he wouldn't have got
because he's a bad chemistry student. And then that final line of like Walt saying, "You're lucky you didn't have to wait your whole life to do something special." And this is before many truly terrible things happened, right? This is before this is before Jane died. This is before Tomas died. This is before a lot of things. That's before he had to shoot Gale in the face. So like, it's such a tragedy. Walt saying this to him and thinking that he like his family, his teaching career, whatever he did to get a Nobel Prize, like all that wasn't special. Him being this fucking meth kingpin is what made him feel like he was alive.
And I think this is supposed to be Jesse reflecting on that and thinking, boy, he was fucking wrong. what we did was not special. And what I want to do in the future doesn't need to be, by those definitions, special.
Right.
Like I look at every time they do a flashback and I'm thinking it's interesting that they have told me so much about Jesse's future in those flashbacks without actually going to his future, because I now know when, he's talking to Mike and he's saying you can't put things right, that Jesse isn't going to try and forget what's happened, right? This letter to Brock is not like a final moment of like, oh, I'm going to set everything right with Brock and he's going to be happy and I'm going to be happy. It's not that. When he's talking with Walt here, he's thinking, I don't want to do, if this is what special is, I don't want to be special. And when he's talking with Jane at the end about the just going with the universe where it takes you, he's, in my opinion, like when she says, no, that's a terrible way to live. That's Jesse thinking, okay, now my destiny is in front of me. I can make of it what I want, not just go wherever it takes me, which will fucking, who knows, lead me back to a Nazi cage. Like,
right.
But they do all that in flashback. And so when they bookend everything, they bookend Jesse's story in this movie with him driving and screaming away from the Nazis, him driving to whatever the small town in Alaska is. And I kind of feel like we didn't go anywhere. We didn't change circumstances in this movie, but we know so much more about Jesse.
We have more information.
Yeah.
Which changes our
It's
appreciation.
really good.
And also, like, I thought the point of Robert Forster's vacuum repair guy quizzing him on his backstory and just how on it he was, and how quick he was on his feet, and how he had no problem surviving without Walter White, kind of tells us that Jesse could have been, he actually was a really smart, capable, talented person, which we kind of knew in the margins, that if Jesse put his mind to something, that a lot of this kind of like, meth idiot act was just that something he put on to kind of like, like a gear he shifted down into to hang with Badger and Skinny P and combo and make it, you're blasting your brain on meth and weed, and it's all good times and video games and low stakes chasing hookers around the Crystal Palace. But here's a guy he could have a business degree. He could be a CEO of the company, but he's going to live in some fucking cabin dodging grizzly bears because Mr. White wanted to cook meth with him.
Yeah, maybe he's gonna, go be a woodworker. I don't know. We always wondered about Jesse. Yeah. And I don't feel like we got any concrete information, but we at least know where his head's at.
It's just interesting what a different person he is now, because like Gone is the guy who just wanted to play video games and listen to a big fancy audio and have house parties and rage like that. Yeah. None of that appeals to him in the least at this point. Like, and they even though like Skinny P and Badger have a lot of affection for him, there's like no way they could go back to the way things were. No, it's just a fundamentally different person. And then we have the last flashback to Jane, and that's it. We did have one piece of feedback. We didn't solicit it. Obviously, if we thought about this a little bit more, we probably would have like advertised the fact that we were definitely going to do this, and we probably would have put something in the feed to do it, but like,
yeah, but what's the point?
Yeah, it's a one and done.
Yeah
If you're still subscribed, congratulations. If you found it, like, I'm not sure whether you're hearing this on the OG Breaking Good feed, if you're listening to it on the Better Call Saul feed, if you're listening to it on the Bald Movies feed, we did get an email sent in to the old hotline. Our old buddy Josh H. had a pretty interesting question that I wanted to talk about anyway, and I'm going to let him walk us through it. So he says, I wanted to advance a thesis that Jesse is better off having teamed up with Walter White and gone through the events of Breaking Bad. Here is his case. Jesse now has a fresh start in Alaska. He's seen the worst that the drug game has to offer, and he's almost certainly learned that he wants no part of it anymore. He's got somewhere around $200,000, which could buy him a pretty decent woodworking shop and at least a modestly long runway to get a business of some sort off the ground. Beyond that, he's almost certainly got more self-confidence, perspective about himself, specifically because he's overcome so many trials and tribulations. Also, there's no way to know for sure, but what's the most likely scenario for how Jesse's adult life would have turned out sans Walter White? There's a fair chance he'd be a slightly more successful knucklehead like Skinny P or Badger, but there's just as good of a chance that would come back to bite him, i.e. the beating by a real player in the drug game or a long trip to prison. In the pilot, he narrowly escaped an arrest by the DEA, and he was driving around in a hoopty with a license plate that read Captain Cook, for crying out loud. The case against us, of course, is all the psychic trauma that he suffered. Despite the peaceful look on his face at the end of El Camino, he almost certainly has plenty of PTSD that he'll need to work on. That said, I'd still say that's an open question as to whether or not Jesse is better off having gone through what he has during Breaking Bad, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think of this thesis that Jesse is better, has a better outcome going through this, going down the long road that is El Camino, versus if Walter White never reached out to him?
I think you have to make a lot of assumptions to even compare the two things. You're assuming that Jesse wouldn't have, got busted on some small charge and said, "Oh fuck, I need to set my life straight."
Yeah.
You're assuming that, he wouldn't have had another good mentor who wasn't pushing him to be a drug kingpin. Mm-hmm. You're assuming a lot of things about his life, and I think you're right about those assumptions. Like, the most likely scenarios are you either end up dead or in prison, or you end up, if you're lucky, like Skinny Pete and Badger, just kind of fumble fucking your way through life.
Right.
And in that case, I still don't know that you're better off. I don't know, man.
The thing is Jesse. Here's the thing that I think this is out of this analysis is Jesse comes from a solid upper middle class background and has a family that loves and cares for him.
Yeah.
So if he did go have a little minor prison stint, as long as he didn't get shot, killed, or something like that, very good chance that he can hit rock bottom, and he's got the resources there that could help him rebuild his life.
Yeah, that's a good point.
He's got a little brother that looks up to him. There's like lots of things that, like, if he were not involved in a criminal enterprise, like finding out his brother's getting into drugs now, like some things that could have scared him straight, could have scared him sober. We know that he can do sobriety, which is, if you can climb that hill, that counts for a lot. So yeah, it's like this assumption that he is like these losers, these fundamental losers, like Skinny Pete and Badger. As much as I like them as characters, and I think they're stand-up guys as far as that stuff goes, he had resources that I don't think they did.
Certainly that we haven't seen of theirs. Yeah,
right. And it felt like that. Everyone wants to assume the worst. Like, it's like, oh, you get caught on a drug charge and it's just done, or you're going to catch a beating from a drug dealer. And but honestly, a lot of people go in and out of the system, and some of them get better, some of them don't. Some people never do. Some people just go through this phase and they become perfectly respectable adults. Yeah. And you put that against all of Breaking Bad.
That's the thing. The circumstances are so extreme of what
Nazi
we know.
Prison. He went to Nazi prison.
You have to assume a lot to say that his life is going to be worse than that.
Yeah. So I think that Jesse was a fundamentally less broken person than Walter White. And he had that kind of like core goodness that he could fall back on, and the resources that he had with his family. It's hard for me to accept the argument. I think it's a argument that can be made. Would you rather take and that's the thing is, like, also $200,000 is not a lot of money. Like, we're being real. Like, that's not like you don't ever have to worry about money again, even in like the fucking wilds of Alaska where you're getting petroleum money and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's not set you up for life money. He's going to have to figure out.
You do have a pretty good runway. Like, if you wanted to become a woodworker in Alaska and just make furniture or something and sell it locally. Yeah. Like, that's a pretty good runway as far as.
You think about, how's he ever going to have a family? Like, look at it, like his face. His face is so fucking busted. I had to have years taken off his life from all the vicious beatings, all of the drugs, all of the near-death experiences that he's gone through. Like, it's hard for me to take that. If I had full knowledge of the different paths Jesse could take, it's hard for me to put all my money on the Walter White path, especially since the other path is completely unknown and unknowable. Yeah. So, do you think? One last thing I want to talk about before we're done here. Do you think that we'll ever have a revisit in the Breaking Bad universe? Obviously, we've got the final shoe to drop on Better Call Saul, and this actually makes me a lot more engaged with the Gene plot. It's something we kind of talked about in Better Call Saul. Like, I do think that this shows that Vince can do something with that post Breaking Bad era that's interesting. Oh yeah, and maybe something that's like, we've always talked about, like, maybe there'll be a whole episode or 2 or 3 episode mini arc all in black and white of Gene. But do you think we'll ever revisit Breaking Bad universe after that's all put to bed?
I guess I don't see a need for it. Yeah, like I was trying to think. Oh, is a Walt Jr. Skylar kind of thing warranted? No, not really. We kind of know where they stand at the end of this.
If they keep flying right, it's a very boring story. And if Walt Jr. goes to start dealing meth, do I want to see that? Is that a feel good story?
Yeah. Do I believe it? I don't know. I mean, maybe they could sell it, but
where's the other cherries that could be on top? Because I see lots of shits you can take on the top of that sundae, but there's not a lot of cherries. I think
there aren't a lot of characters left at the end of Breaking Bad,
right? That you actually care about, that have some unanswered questions.
80% of that cast is dead at the end of that show.
Right.
So where do you go from here?
I mean, maybe a Gus flashback to his early life in Chile.
Yeah. I mean, that could be interesting.
But we found this is my opinion, and the more we found out about Gus, the less interesting his character actually is,
and the less there is to do in a movie like that, right?
Right.
In a revisit of Gus's early days, because we know more about him now.
Right. So that's El Camino.
How about Gale?
Gale?
Yeah, it's just all Gale. I know we got some of that in Better Call Saul.
Where did he go and make that recording? Was that in India or Singapore?
Singapore sounds right.
I guess
to me.
Post grad Gale kicking around the world.
Yeah, learning to cook meth. You don't just. Yeah, I don't feel like even a chemistry student just can cook meth. Mm-hmm. I mean, they probably have to learn how to do it, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of procedure, not just, these are the chemical bonds and done. I feel like he's probably got to have some kind of mentor somewhere, or at least a series of experimentations. What kind of crazy characters does he meet?
Would that be called Leaves of Grass, the Gale story?
Yeah. It would be the title of the movie would be the first verse of that song.
Yeah, I think this did feel like a final chapter because I mean, I don't really care to see, although I don't know. That's the thing. If I came back
maybe
to
the Chicken Brothers.
Huh?
Maybe the Chicken Brothers could be interesting. We know quite a bit about that though. I mean, Breaking Bad covers a lot of ground. That's
what I'm saying. If Vince ever's if there's another cherry floating around in that jar of maraschino cherries, then I will always be happy to have another one. But it's that's what you gotta. Every time you go back to this and you take another swing on it, you are mortgaging Breaking Bad's reputation. Just like
I got it.
I mean, look what happened to Game of Thrones this last season. It went from platinum coated, diamond encrusted, standard bearing of the golden era of television to widely derides what am I trying to say? Widely lampooned. Just maybe has destroyed the Double D's career. That's I don't know. I don't know if you wanna roll the dice with that.
Yeah, I'm with you. Although I might be down for a Tuco in jail movie.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or young Tuco in Mexico, growing up with the cousins. And it's I don't know. It'd be
there you go, Hector. You could take it pretty far back.
It's like a sitcom. It's like Malcolm in the Middle with Hector as the kind of the maniacal dad role. Mm-hmm. Nah, see that's the shit on top of the sundae you don't want.
You gonna see him in his tidy whities? Does he have his very own bowling episode?
All right, that's Breaking Bad El Camino. Any other final thoughts?
No, I don't think so. I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was perfect, but I thought it was a worthy addition.
Well, if it's been a while since you've been around the Bald Move parts, and this is a reminder that we still exist, we are actually rejoin us at the right time because, man, what do you want? We got something. You want Mr. Robot? We got Mr. Robot. You want Watchmen? We got Watchmen. You want American Horror? We got American Horror. You want movie podcast? We got movie podcast. What am I leaving out? There's other things we're doing. Oh, The Deuce.
The Deuce, yeah.
David Simon, you guys butthurt that I wasn't doing a Wire podcast. I've been doing 3 seasons of the sequel to The Wire.
And nobody noticed.
No, yeah. Where's everybody at? We've always got stuff going down at baldmove.com. Now more than ever. Check it out, and we hope to see you around. And until wherever we see you the next time, I'm A.Ron.
And I'm Jim.
Later.